everybody's talking now about um, the killing at the Holocaust Museum, and I'm not going to lump in. I think a
Oh,
lot of
this
people,
mayor?
yeah, in the wake of Bill Gordon's comments,
Oh,
there's.
well,
But
at least you
putting
read
that
it
aside, I
too.
think that we know. I think we know that there are problems of hateful
Racing?
groups and
Boy,
racism.
they sure are. They're sure coming after me from every direction.
Yeah,
Nobody talks about that for
and
years.
and I'm just wondering, how do you see a danger in the approach that you are taking to to immigrants and forcing, and I guess, yeah.
Does it stoke
Yeah.
anti-immigrant,
And I mean,
anti-Latino, anti-Hispanic?
and it's not just the Holocaust Museum. I mean, we could think of Robert Cotton, who was murdered
The
last May
abortion.
1st, 2008.
Oh, that's.
He was by the Aryan Brotherhood in one of your jails, and for 20 minutes there was
Okay.
footage
One
of
inmate against. Yeah, okay.
him being
Yeah,
beaten
right,
by the Aryan
right,
Brotherhood, a
right.
gang that I suppose they are members of in.
Yeah, there's some racial
prisons.
tension in the jails. The blacks against the Hispanics. But we control that situation. We do
But
pretty good.
he was murdered, right?
Yeah, by another inmate, right?
There's racial animosity in the country, and I think
Right.
the question is whether or not the sort of rhetoric and policies that are enacted here kind of inflame some of that.
I don't know. I do know on the other side of the fence that for the last 3 years, small groups like Acorn and others have been marching up and down the streets with banners and the piñata, cutting my head off and showing it to the kids. That's on that side against me. And I've been going through this for 3 years, personally. But I understand this is part of the job. And I'm not going to stop. I will not be deterred.
This is part of what I was saying about, and I know you took exception to me saying, treating them like real criminals because,
Yeah,
and you're right.
well,
I get it.
Technical point.
Right, they're criminals, but the people's attitudes can then be like, though they're less than people, or they deserve to be punished, they deserve to be, mistreated, but and I think that's sort of some of the hate groups that are out there, I'm wondering if you're thinking that the detention of illegals, that policy inflames that sort of feeling, that they can be treated like less than people.
Well, I don't think so. We have.
This is an illegal immigration story per her email. Okay? So you know, that's her email. They were here to do an immigration story. And
public access.
Nothing else was discussed, right? In our email. That's what you told me.
Well, I know that, but we sure went to other things.
So.
But anyway, we're back on the illegal immigration.
Yeah.
You can edit all that other stuff
But
out.
do you think that stokes? Do you think these policies that you're enacting sort of inflame that kind of?
I think a small group of people are making a big issue of it. And the bottom line is they just don't like me enforcing the illegal immigration laws. It has to do with politics, the vote, as I mentioned, employers hiring people cheap. When you can't find anything else, they usually throw in the racists. That's become a little more of conversation in the past couple of years. But I'm not concerned. I'm not a racist. I'm not going to get into my personal background of my grandkids of all different ethnic backgrounds. But this is what they do. And they call me a racist, and they're calling me every name. Mussolini, I'm Italian. Mother and father came here from Italy. And they call me every name in the book. And it makes me sad, especially when they have these demonstrations and, the piñata, where they, have you heard of piñata?
I know what a piñata is.
They cut my head off and show it to all the kids. And here I'm the chief law enforcement officer in uniform. That's sad. The new Supreme Court justice I just read, they did something, cut her in a cartoon, never mind. And boy, they really defended her on that. But where is everybody defending me on all this racial stuff they're throwing at me? I've never had security in my 17 years. Now I have a security because of threats I'm getting. But it's not going to stop me.
But you're not vulnerable in the same way that like poor illegal immigrants are. You're not vulnerable nearly in the same way, right? These people are really vulnerable. And these people
I am too. They sure know how to pop the sheriff. There's been a lot of threats on me. But I'm going to tell you, you're from the East, I presume, New York?
Mm-hmm.
I'm from the East. I'm just kind of joking in a way, but East Coast sometimes think different than the West Coast. I don't surrender. I have a birthday tomorrow, and I'm a senior citizen. I'm a senior citizen. Been married 52 years, and have 2 kids, 4 grandkids. I'm not going to be deterred by these people that march down the street, call me every name in the book. I'm not going to be deterred. I will continue to fight the illegal immigration problem.
What about, how do you feel about the other side? I mean, there are white supremacists who claim you as a hero.
I don't know about that. I denounce any racist group, any. I have an open door policy, not just for you to go into the jail, but I have another strange philosophy, and I know it's a little risky. I can go down the street right now, and you'll see people come up to me, and they'll say, "Sheriff, can I have a picture with you?" Or I give speeches like 2 every day. I got to give another one tonight. I don't check everybody that comes in there. I don't know who's in the audience. And they all come up to me, "Can I have your picture?" I always do it because I don't like turning people down, if you understand. When I'm there, the people, I serve them and I report to the people. So I do take a risk sometimes getting a picture taken with somebody.
I'm not talking about the picture. I know there was a picture, it was posted on a blog.
Which is wrong, by the way. You know, the guy said he didn't even know who I was. Of course, that's not on the blog.
So, essentially, I'm not asking about the picture. I'm just asking about the fact that there are white supremacist groups who do hold you up as a hero.
Well, I don't know about that. Who said that?
Well, you can, yeah.
They did? Yeah. Who? I never heard of them. Whoever they are, I haven't heard it. Well, you know what? There's a lot of
neo-Nazis who have talked.
Well, I don't support them. I don't condone that.
I'm not saying you're condoning it, but I'm just asking because you're talking about concern about hatred and groups that are espousing that are talking about violence towards you, and I'm just wondering about whether you're concerned about these people who hold you up as a hero, who are white supremacists.
Well, I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. I have a lot of other people that think I'm a hero too, you know. A lot of them all over the United States of America, including New York. I can show you files of hundreds and hundreds of letters I get. Hundreds and hundreds every week. All support me and call me a hero. They're not part of these groups. But I don't agree with these groups. But what can I tell them? Can I say, no, I don't even know who they are? I denounce where they're coming from, but I can't stop them from marching up and down the streets with signs, just like I can't stop the open border people. They're all there, all crowd. Every day they're there, call me every name in the book with these big signs. How can I stop them? There's freedom. There's a First Amendment right. So if these supremacist groups are out there, I can't do nothing about it. What can I do about it? Arrest them if they're not violating the law? But if they violated the law, they'd be in jail too. Guarantee you.
It took quite a long time for there to be a response to the Robert Cotton beating that was on videotape in the jail for 20 minutes before a guard came when Robert Cotton was being beaten by a member of the Aryan Brotherhood.
What's that got to do with illegal immigration?
No, it's to do with hate.
Jail.
It's to do with hate.
Hate?
Yeah. I'm just wondering why the response time was slow.
Well, I'm not going to get into that. Nothing was done to my officers. There was nothing that we found that was wrong, I guess, for a couple of minor things. And unfortunately, when you run a jail system, there are a lot of people there that are not nice people. But we try to make everybody safe and secure. I don't care where they're from, who they are, whether they're murderers, anything else. We're not happy what happened.
Is there any follow-up that's going to be done? So you didn't actually find that there were any major errors?
No, there's a couple, but we took care of it. But when you have 1.6 million people, 1.6 million that have come through the jails since I've been the sheriff, we have a pretty good record, even though we don't want to lose anybody in the jail, to die in the jail.
But there have been a number of cases.
There's been a number of cases.
What is it, $43 million?
No, that's not true. It's like 30, and a major part of that is the correctional health.
So that's in how much the county has had to pay in settlements?
That's, yeah.
For lawsuits
but
over
that's
people who have both health-related deaths.
Yeah, because the health-related part of that doesn't come under me. I get all the heat. That comes under the county. I have no control over the health problems in the jail, the doctors and nurses, but I get all the criticism.
But there have been several past cases of inmate-on-inmate violence that have resulted in death. And
No, when you look at those type of situations, and compare us across the nation, we're way at the bottom. But once again, we're talking about the jails, which I'm not afraid to talk about. I just answer your question, but I don't know what that has to do with illegal immigration.
Sheriff, that figure she's throwing out is broad stroke. It's not all jail operations.
it's just settlements.
That's the entire sheriff's office.
Well, you could talk about the car accidents.
Wrongful deaths and injuries?
It's not limited.
Not just in jails.
You're using a total dollar figure that is spread out across all of our operations, including traffic collisions. So the number that you're trying to attribute strictly to the jail is highly inaccurate.
The point is that you're asking me this question, which personifies what this is all about. It's about me. Because if you went to the New York City Police, if you just went to Phoenix, they just settled $6 million. If you went to Mesa, they just settled $3 million. Has to do with cops and the bad guys. And then you're talking about $40 million. That's not even the accurate. After 17 years. So why don't you go to every police chief? Why don't you go to every mayor and see what they paid out? Go to all the other sheriff's offices, see what they paid out. But because it's me, $30 million. That is nothing in 17 years. I just told you last week $6 million in one case. But nobody talks about that because they're not Joe Arpaio. You understand where I'm going with this? I wish you would do a study. If you want to hit me, why don't you go and get the other balance? Why don't you go to other police departments and see what they pay out? But why is it always me throwing out this figure that you got from the New Times or for these activists, $41 million up and down the streets? It's all wrong. And that makes me frustrated. I hate to tell you, I get frustrated sometimes about the misinformation, only to take the sheriff down. And quite frankly, after 17 years, this is my 5th re-election, but I've never had so much heat, if you want to call it that, and the common denominator is the illegal immigration. That's what's driving everything against me. All the criticism by certain groups, politicians, never had any problems. And I've done some controversial things for the first 15 years.
What do you mean illegal immigration is bringing all this heat?
It's a common denominator with the demonstrators, with the media, with the signs, with the threats, with politicians accusing me and my officers of racism, have them investigated. I can go on and on. And that just has happened in the last 2-3 years when I started enforcing the illegal immigration laws. However, my polls are higher now than they have been. So I presume that the people of Maricopa County and the United States of America like what this sheriff is doing to enforce the laws. And I know you're probably going to ask me this. If not, I'm going to give you the answer anyway. And I think you started to do this when you're the fact is, you're probably going to say, Sheriff, you're only doing this to get reelected. I had an election last year, November, and this has been going on, and all the demonstrators and activists, he's only doing this for political reasons. I can get elected on pink underwear. I don't need the illegal immigration to get reelected. Believe me, I don't need that. I've done it 5 times.
So why do you take it on?
You know why? Let me tell you, I'm going to answer the question that you have. And the point is, I do have compassion for the Latin people. I say Latin because that's what the problem is here. You think I would not be happy arresting somebody being here illegal from another country, even Canada? It just so happens they're all from Mexico or Central America. But I have compassion for the Mexican people, having lived there. I know a lot of them come here to work. There's no secret. They don't all violate the laws and go to the jail, even though we have a high percentage. But I had to make a decision. Do I let my compassion override what I took an oath of office for? Do you think I go home every night and I have a notch on the wall? Oh, I arrested 20 more. I'm so happy. You think I do that? I don't do that.
You have press releases that say this many more illegal
Yes.
immigrants arrested
Yeah.
today.
And that's
I
a
mean,
good.
you send that out to the
yeah,
media
yes.
on a regular basis.
You know why I do that? They don't print it, by the way. You do know that. If any other law enforcement agency, by the way, they get all the media. They do a drop house. They get it. I don't get it.
You mean the local
Police. Yeah, when they do a drop house, they get it. I do drop houses all the time. They don't report it, especially this Arizona Republic. And when you catch somebody for 30 felonies on any crime, you arrest 30 people on felonies, not misdemeanors. That's newsworthy anywhere. So we arrest 30 people because they happen to be illegal. We arrest 50 people for identity theft, which we're #1 in the nation. But because they're illegal, I get the bad news. They don't print it or they badmouth me because I arrested 30 illegals, but they forget this identity theft. So we know what's going on here. I know what's going on. So when we do make a felony arrest, we make others too, but I think it's newsworthy when you arrest 30 people for felonies. They don't print it. Now, you read it. I'm putting it on my web. I want the people to know we're enforcing the laws. The state government gave me $1.6 million to do that. And also, I want the people here illegally to understand. You come into this county, you're going to be arrested, and you're going to jail. So I use this as a deterrence effect and hope they don't come through Maricopa County. Let them come through another county. You don't come into this county. Also, the people that are here illegally, maybe they will make special arrangements and go back home and come back into this country legally. So this is a public perception thing I get out too. I'm not going to deny it. Why should I deny it?
So you've talked about media outlets that have been critical of you. You must have journalists who you like working with and good rapport with. I mean, at least Lee Dobbs, who have sort of helped get out this message, right?
Well, I've been on, you talk about national, I thought you meant locally, but national.
Both.
Well, you're one of the few, I don't blame you. I know I got a little agitated when you quote other media. Now you're saying something nice about other media. But as I mentioned when we began this, I have an open door policy. And the only reason I interrupted you, I wanted to get Lisa and see what this story was really about, because I've been sandbagged before on the same thing with PBS, which they came here on one thing and they were all driving to help make this guy get an award from this other newspaper. But actually that story turned out pretty good. It was balanced. But I didn't get into that thing that I'm not getting into with you. The media is, and I have, I'm not going to tell you what his job is, but I have a son-in-law that's very high up in the media. My daughter was a great reporter.
Wasn't your son-in-law on the editorial board of the Arizona Republic?
He was?
I've
Is or
heard.
was?
Oh, I don't know. Is or was. I don't know a lot about the local media.
Well, I don't usually talk about other newspapers. But if he is, there's a wall between he and I. We don't get involved in each other's business. But I just bring up my daughter, who was a great reporter, and then left to adopt kids. So I have a little history with the media. And I guess you can put it like this. It's a love-hate relationship. Even locally, I guess they love me one day and they hate me the next. But it's something you have to work with. That's most sheriffs, you don't know who they are. I started this by saying I have an open door policy. I don't run a CIA operation. You can go to the tents, you can go anywhere. I have nothing to hide. So I do deal with the media, and traditionally in law enforcement, they hate media. When I was head of the federal drug enforcement all over the United States and overseas, I always talked to the media, but I had to be careful what I said. If I said the wrong thing, this transfer me back to Turkey. Now as the elected sheriff, nobody's going to transfer me. I stand by what I say to you. But that's something I decided to do. When I became sheriff, I said I'm going to be active. I'm not going to be secretive. I'm going to just do it. And that's what I do. Gets me in trouble sometimes. Gets me in trouble. Even on the dogs. When I said it costs more to feed the dogs than the inmates. Well, I guess if I was the governor, they'd drive me out of the state. But I don't get much heat on that. I don't get much heat. At least the dogs like me. In jail. I do have 200 dogs and cats right down in the jail. If you like to visit our MASH unit, you can visit the dogs and cats. I got DMX's dogs in there. We just convicted him, the rapper.
Without undocumented workers, how would the economy function?
It's functioning great. Isn't it great? Isn't it great? Now you go to McDonald's and the chicken places and you see high school kids working and all that. Because now the people that don't have jobs and the high school kids are trying to get money to go to college. Now they have a better opportunity because the illegal workers are leaving. And isn't it great that maybe some of these businesses should pay more money to U.S. citizens and give them a job and opportunity? If you have 12 million people in this country illegally here, taking up jobs that U.S. citizens need, especially today, I don't think it's fair. It's a fair, quite frankly, I'm going to get back to, I look at it as a fairness issue. Fairness. My mother and father came from Italy. There's many people around this world, you know it, are dying to get into the United States of America. But they can't. And yet you get people to come here illegally and they want to make them U.S. citizens. That's not fair. It's not fair.
What about for people who've been here for 25 years, who have families here, who don't have another home?
That's another issue. That's another issue.
A lot of people without the documents are in that situation.
Well, we don't come across that many. Most of our arrests is very, very few. Most of our arrests They just came here illegally, they're working, they're trying to find a job, and that type of thing. But we haven't come across many that have been here for all that time. But when we do, we give it to the ICE, and then they make a decision what to do. That's not our decision.
But in some of the operations, your operations, there have been American citizens who are Latino who've been arrested. How do you? I mean,
Well,
I imagine that a lot of people who've been here for a long time. It doesn't seem like it's very discriminating.
we don't
when it
arrest
comes
U.S.
to-
You mean U.S. citizens we arrest?
Yeah,
If they're Latino?
There was a lawsuit by 5 people who I think it's ongoing. So I imagine you
Yeah,
can't talk
no,
about
no,
it. But
but-
the ACLU is representing
Yeah,
them.
I'm not worried about that. The true
Right.
facts will
So I'm
come
just
out.
wondering
No.
if you can't distinguish between who's a U.S. citizen and who is illegal. How can you?
We do distinguish.
How can you distinguish? Well, in that case, you clearly didn't.
No, that's what you're saying. How do you know we did not?
Because the person was arrested and they were an American
Well,
citizen.
let's look at the facts. Let's look at the facts.
Time
Yeah.
and
I
that
got-
issue is,
Yeah, well, she's at, Anyway, that's something that hasn't been resolved, and the facts will come out on
it's
that.
confusing a
I
traffic
know.
citation with an arrest, and that's.
I know. Well, you're trying to, I can understand you haven't done a lot of research other than reading the newspapers and the Goldwater. I understand that, and I don't blame you. But I'm not here to talk about them. I think I gave you enough information.
I was just looking at the
I
documents
understand.
for that lawsuit.
Yeah, but that's how you get your information, because you haven't been here a long time to hang around with us to see how we operate. You have to get your information from
All right.
the newspaper.
That's good.
Anyway, thank